that's how we fix this, by taking the Bible as a whole and teaching it to the nations holistically. Teaching them about the money, teaching them about the morals, teaching them about the family, everything the Bible addresses, it's teaching the nations that. And money, obviously, it falls under the category of what Scripture talks about. The Bible and Bitcoin podcast is sponsored by Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is a Bitcoin-only exchange. It's non-custodial, so you don't have to trust them with your Bitcoin. It's feature-rich and always improving. They have a Christian CEO and are an all-around amazing place to get your Bitcoin. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/pastorcoin and start stacking today. And this is the Bible and Bitcoin podcast, but it's also
Luke Broyles' show, which doesn't have a name other than my own name, which I don't know, maybe he's
branding, man. What's good?
Yeah. Anyway, for those who don't know, of course, this is Alan, Pastor Coin. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I have been for a while now since we set this up, us three, because all three of us are really, really bullish, and all three of us are Christians, and all three of us really care about not just number go up, but freedom go up and life go up. And so hopefully people find this interesting from a bullish case for Bitcoin perspective, and also a why Bitcoin is going up in the future, which Bitcoin is up a good bit today. Day of recording, Bitcoin's up 7% today. Bitcoin Well stock's up 20% or something today.
I mean, it's
yeah. So anyway, it's a good day in Bitcoin, and I'm glad that you guys set this up, that we did this.
Yeah. Well, Luke, you know what? You seem to be organized, so let's go ahead.
It's all a show.
Let's start asking questions.
Well, I do have my cheese curds, so
Hey,
what do you need? You need something? We have a guy crawling in the background. He's too self-conscious to be on camera. But anyway, where are we? We are currently in Canada. We are in Montreal, Canada, for the Canadian Bitcoin Conference. This is the second annual ever. Last year was the very first one. This is the second one. I was here last year. It was in Toronto last year. It was wonderful. Were you guys here last year?
I was here last year. Or I was in Toronto last year, yeah.
We didn't know each other, so we were there. No.
Yeah.
We just didn't meet.
And we also had that happen at BitBlock Boom, I feel like.
I was not at BitBlock Boom.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. That's why I didn't have it. But anyway, so I guess let's give a little bit of background on what we do. Obviously, people know that I don't do anything other than relentlessly make videos about Bitcoin and threads and articles and encourage people to take self-custody and get off zero with Bitcoin. But both of you have way more interesting stories of what you're doing right now from finance world and the spiritual world. So I don't know, maybe what's a 2 or 3 minute explanation of what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Pastor Coin, aka Alan, aka Pastor Coin.
I love that. The man is the brand.
Yeah. And I am a real pastor. People ask me sometimes, like, are you a real pastor or is this a gimmick? No, I am.
What does that mean, a real pastor?
Like,
you head up a church.
Yeah, like I preach at a church and do those things, pastoral care and whatnot. Yeah, I am a real pastor with a real church. It's a small church, but it's real. And I'm a Bitcoiner on the side. It's my side hustle, I guess you could say. But like you said, Luke, it's about more than number go up. And that's why I'm a Bitcoiner, because I care about freedom and I care about righteousness and God's standard being applied in the land. And Bitcoin is the best tool I have found thus far to do that from a monetary perspective. So my mission is just to bring Bitcoin to Christians and help them understand how this fits within a biblical worldview.
That's sweet, man. I love that mission so much. For those of you that don't know, I'm Adam. I am the founder and CEO at Bitcoin Well. We're a non-custodial Bitcoin platform that helps people get off zero and take self-custody. That's why Luke and I get along so well.
Yeah.
And there's some swag for Pastor Coin. Actually, I'm not sure if you know this, but your book was the first one that helped me tie Christ, God to Bitcoin. And I've since been on, I would say, the opposite, the opposite mission, but looking to bring Jesus to Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
You're bringing Bitcoin to the church. I want to bring the church. I think you called it white pill on that podcast we shot a few weeks ago.
I'm not the one that came up with that term, but I mean,
It fits. I knew exactly what you meant the second you said it. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice.
So obviously all this is a derivative of the matrix, right? Red pill, orange pill, or red pill, blue pill.
Yeah.
Orange pill is when someone takes the Bitcoin pill, wakes them up from the matrix. And of course the joke white pill is when
take the Jesus pill.
Well, yeah, we wake up from the matrix of our own pride, let's say.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Or whatever it is. But anyway, yeah, no, that's why I like what you guys are doing. And I last night, which by the way, I'm really tired right now, so hopefully I'm being coherent. But last night I was really thinking about, all the people in my life. And Alan and I flew out here today, and I'm just so grateful. I mean, dozens and dozens of people like you guys I've met that have that mission both ways, that are people that are wanting to bring more sound money to Christians and people that are trying to have a spiritual impact in the world, and then likewise bring that to people that they're trying to have a monetary impact in the world. Because I think that you can't have a better world on just better money.
Totally.
At the end of the day,
you need more. Yeah. You need more. That's exactly the thesis. Right. Is money is a tool to enable sovereignty.
Yeah. So maybe let's touch on both, because probably a lot of people watching this are Bitcoiners, probably most people, and probably some people aren't, because so probably a wide variety of people watching this. Maybe, I don't know, let's start with, why is Bitcoin better money? And if none of us believe that money itself is what's going to fix the world, why talk about it at all, right? So why Bitcoin, right? Now, you were the most OG of all of us. You were in Bitcoin, 2012, 13?
13, yeah.
2013. Okay, so you were in Bitcoin 2013 when it was, what, $100?
$100, yeah. One brown paper bill from Canada got you 100 million sats.
Oh
yeah.
My goodness.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, because now I'm looking at my sats per dollar. It's like 1,500 or something like that. And back then, sats per dollar was like $1 million, which is crazy. But yeah. So I've been.
You've seen a 600x in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think about it like that, because it's like, I mean, I like it's very common in Bitcoin now, this narrative, but like, you don't, if you're in Venezuela and your national currency is the peso, mm-hmm. and the peso like goes down against the dollar goes up against the peso, you're not like, what are you doing? Are you selling the dollar for pesos? Right. Like, no, like you're not. Right. Like it's like, it's 600x. Like, yes, I have, I guess, successfully preserved a portion of wealth in Bitcoin for the last 10 years, but my great granddaughter, who will be alive in 110, 130 years, will also be preserving her wealth in Bitcoin. And that's what Bitcoin's designed to do. It's like, we've got this nice, the nice early adopter hockey stick, and that's like fine. But it's not about the hockey stick. And that number go up is a bit of there's some danger there, because Bitcoin is not the most number go up vehicle anymore. So it's...
What do you mean?
Well, there's going to be faster horses for short periods of time. Like the fiat casino will be a faster number go up game than Bitcoin at this point. However, it is way less sustainable. It's kind of like cocaine is a better way to get energy. Like, you can go to the gym and sleep well and like, eat right and all the stuff and have lots of energy. Or you can just have like a bump of cocaine and you'll be flying through the roof.
We're already right here. I got mine ready to go.
Got your squeaky cheese?
Yeah, my squeaky cheese curd.
But like, I don't know that any of us are like, oh, you're tired? Just have some cocaine. That's fine. Because we have a low time preference. We don't want to be cocaine junkies. We want to be like energetic individuals. And so Bitcoin is for the energetic individual. The fiat casino is for the cocaine junkie, I would say.
You just throwing out your money here?
I know. I got all my political
this is a good...
So of course, we're in Canada. I don't like my moose bucks, so I don't have any Canadian dollars.
I got some here.
I got better American dollars on me.
Yeah, I got that.
We got Canadian moose buck dollars on Alan.
I got some Venezuela.
Oh wait, you got
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I got Zimbabwe. Mine's a 10 trillion.
Wow, I got 5 billion.
No, it's 5 trillion.
This is 5 billion.
Hundreds, 10,000. Wait,
that's 5 billion.
So that's a 5 billion.
I just have sats.
Well,
and what do you have here? What is this?
That's a 10 trillion.
10 trillion. You want to trade?
Zimbabwe.
No. So this is.
Have you seen the sign?
Wow.
There's two. I believe they're from Zimbabwe or equivalent. And they're holding up a piece of cardboard that says "World's Poorest Billionaire."
Wow.
It is such a powerful picture. I love that. It's like so powerful. It tells such an incredible message in just one photograph.
Well, yeah. Obviously, we all own sats, but the reason, obviously, that I'm showing this and that we all carry this, or at least I carry these. This is a Venezuelan one. This is the American one, obviously, which I actually spend these. But, it's to emphasize the point, right? That this piece of paper from Zimbabwe is, what, 2,000 times more than the one that you have? Even though 5 billion?
That's a lot.
So I brought these out because you brought up a point, Adam, about how it's not about number go up, why we're in Bitcoin. You've been in Bitcoin. You've seen a 600x in Bitcoin's dollar-based price. It's probably been more like a 10,000x in this and a million x in this, right? But it's not the number go up, it's the purchasing power for humans go up.
Yeah.
Which obviously the way we communicate that today is this. But all that to say, my question is that, like, did you understand this from the start?
No,
from 2013?
You go on a journey, man, and like I did the things. I spent hundreds of Bitcoin on a car and like a house and sneakers and like I've done the stupid things. I paid
cheese curds,
and well, like literally, like when you live on Bitcoin, people often say it's like, I have diamond hands. I'm a hardcore maxi. I'm not selling. It's like, well, then you're not hardcore enough because you have to sell to live. Like, if you're not selling, you don't own enough Bitcoin, right? Like, and I forget. Oh, Joey. Shout out Joey from the CVP. He was like, I never sell, and I was like, oh, you don't have enough. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, how do you live? Like, you have a house, you have to eat food, you have a daughter, like presumably, maybe I'm not sure if he has a daughter, but you guys know what I'm saying.
He has a daughter.
But he has a dog. So, but yeah, it's value preservation. And back to your earlier question, like the reason value preservation matters so much is because like the gift from God is energy, right? And Bitcoin being a digital form of energy, Bitcoin is really the way that we are preserving God's gift. Like God has given you time on Earth. The only way, literally the only way to preserve that time on Earth and the energy that you, or the value that you produce with that time on Earth is with Bitcoin. And it's like, you can't, like, there's literally no other tool on the planet that allows you to preserve your value, which is at the end of the day, gift from God. So I think it's pretty sick.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. Gangster.
Yeah, it's gangster. Yeah. For me, and I like hear you, Alan, but for me, it was that much more, like you, I didn't understand that at first. For me, I first came into Bitcoin because the number go up, obviously, right? I was
the drug.
Right, it was the drug. And, we can make fun of it like cocaine, I guess. But like it was, like a legit one, right? I was a late teenager, early 20-something, whatever. And, my generation, as I think most people watching and you guys would agree, my generation has a monetary disadvantage to the older generations. And so, it's just naturally, what do I do? What do I save in? And, I was big into mutual funds. I was big into stocks. I understood, I was a teenager with, Roth IRA and, mutual funds. And, I was abnormal with that long time horizon. And so it was the number go up drug. And so even as much as we demonize number go up, it is what people have because it's the signal for their own self-interest at preserving their purchasing power, doing what you were just describing.
Yeah.
But then my point is that for me, what tipped the scale to where this became my life was really internalizing this. Like I understood this. That's why I was owning stocks because I understood, the currency's worth less every year. The stock market trends up over time as the currency's worth. Like I get it, right? Stock market's going up forever. But it was that combination of like what you're saying is that 80%, 90% of the world's adults don't have that tool. Most people don't have the privilege of the American currency that I have, right? And even this currency is stealing from the younger generations to benefit the older generations. So even that is...
I actually think that's the biggest downfall for the West is like the developing countries are adopting Bitcoin much faster than the West. And it's because they have no other option. And Bitcoin is the only option for those that don't have other options. But we've got this floated, inflated monetary system that tricks us into believing that we have other options when we actually don't. And I think I've heard you say like equivalent to the church. Like we've got in the West this facade that I can be my own God and the money is my God and the world is my God or the earth is my God. And we eliminate like the real God from that picture. And therefore the West is just worse off because we are trapped in this fiat mindset.
Yeah. The fiat mindset is deep, man. It's a deep, dark hole that will bring you to dark, dark places if you let it. I just interviewed a guy, a brother in Nigeria, Econ Bro. Go check out Econ Bro. And what?
No, it's just
Go check him out.
Yeah.
He's doing good work.
Is it actually ECON Bureau? Because I mean, people will Google Econ Bro, not find him.
It's Econ Breau.
Okay.
Econ Breau. Anyways, he's a Nigerian, and I asked him. I said, man, because in the West we have our own fiat issues. I said, what's it like in Nigeria? What are the issues? Like, do you see money debasement in Nigeria leading to moral decay? And if so, what does it look like there? And he said, yes, there is definitely a connection, but it's a different kind of moral decay. Whereas in Nigeria, they're dealing, or he's told me things about like human sacrifice. Yeah. People go into witch doctors who say go and kill a child and then you'll get prosperity. And he said this was a thing in Nigeria, and then it stopped, and then as soon as the money printer came back, it's back.
Crazy, man.
So he's like, there is definitely a connection.
People are actually doing that.
People are actually doing it. And it's more prevalent now than it was before, just in recent history even, he testifies. So go watch that episode with him, and he'll tell you all about it. But I say all that to say this is not just a theoretical thing to discuss, like, oh, money printing equals bad. No, like, real human beings are suffering immensely because of this stuff, because of paper, and as I hold these and I feel that it's the same, actually this one feels better.
10 trillion.
This one feels better, but it's actually the most debased, whereas this one isn't. I mean, if this was a fresh, maybe it feels better.
Well, and ironically, the Zimbabwean $10 trillion note's actually worth about as much as the 20, but because this is a historical piece of paper, right?
Right.
But anyway.
So yeah, I mean, all that to say, this fiat mindset. When I tell Christians about this sort of thing, they kind of roll their eyes like, "Oh, come on, fiat. We worshiping money. Money doesn't have that much an effect on our lives." It's like, well, it kind of does.
Well, but all money, including Bitcoin, is only a representation of energy. Exactly. Like we're so far removed from the base root of money, which is just, it's a way for us to communicate our passions and the value that we are able to create. Like an artist only is able to eat because they're able to communicate that art and get value in return. They're providing value and receiving value. Money is just the middleman in between.
That's true.
And like, it's crazy because it literally is a representation of ourselves, but we're removed from that. We don't learn about this. We don't think about money this way.
Yeah.
And it becomes problems.
I've said it like this. I said, when you debase the money, you debase the man.
Yes.
And some Christians have taken exception to that because they say, well, man is not money. True, man is not money. But money is the tool we use to store our time and energy. And what else are we but our time and energy?
Literally.
So like, God has given us, like you said, an allotment of time and energy. And we don't know what that allotment is. We just know we have some. And he tasks us to use it to do his, to fulfill his mandate. Now, if that man is using that time and energy to work and to build and to take dominion, like God said, and the tool that he's forced to use is debasing it, then what are you doing to the man?
Right.
You're debasing him. And okay, oh, that's a stretch. Is it? Look at the moral decay in society. Is it a stretch?
Totally.
It's not a stretch. It's the absolute truth. If you debase the money, you debase the man because you debase his time, and it demoralizes him and causes him to do things he would otherwise not resort to doing. Now, look, this is just the reality. Let's face it. As money gets inflated, people will do, uncharacteristic things. They'll become desperate and will resort to sinful things just to meet their needs. Now, we can say they shouldn't, but they will. And it's due to the fact that their money's debased, and we can't me as a Christian. What I guess going back to the original question, me as a Christian, I realized I can't love my neighbor as myself, as Jesus told me I should do, while he's being debased in this way. So you can love your neighbor as yourself in different ways, but when it comes to monetarily, how do you love your neighbor as yourself? By advocating for him and advocating for a sound, fair, and just money. And I'll just say this, and I'll stop yapping.
You're not yapping.
I know I don't want to get into a sermon. But I'll say this.
I mean, he is a real pastor.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can easily start preaching. But what was I going to say? I forgot.
Oh,
sorry, guys.
He's not used to the crowd. I wouldn't mind hearing though. What?
Oh, here it is. I remember.
Okay.
It was God gives us commandments for a reason. Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't say you shall not kill arbitrarily,
unless you want to.
right? Like just
unless you need to.
Yeah, it's not like God's like sitting there going, "Oh, what should I do with these people? Oh, you know what? Don't kill. Why? Just because I said so."
Right.
You know, it's not like that. There are specific reasons for the commandments. They serve a specific purpose. And when it comes to money, there's a vast array of commandments, but the chief monetary policy of the Lord is simple: you shall not steal. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, you shall not steal. 4 English words. I don't know how many are in Hebrew. Probably less. Usually this. But 4 words. And in those words are presupposed everything about a fair monetary system.
Yeah.
So extrapolate that out. And, in Deuteronomy, you have fair weights and just measures and so forth, these kinds of things. And this is, Moses exegeting, you shall not steal. But the reason God tells you not to do that and to do this, to have a fair and just weight, is because he tells you in the law, so that you may live long in the land the Lord is giving you. So God says, do this, have this kind of money, have this kind of a system, the principle, fairness and justice and equity. And if you do, you will live long and prosper. Star Trek. But that's pretty much the principle there. And so when we don't do that, it infuriates me when Christians say, "Oh, stop talking about money. You love money." Well, no, God said this. Mm-hmm. I didn't make this up. God said, if you want to live in the land long and prosper and have your children see your children's children's children, operate like this with money. And we don't, and then we wonder, oh, well, it's just the end times, or it's just what. No, it's because we're disobeying God's clear commandment. And if we would obey it, things would go better, I think. I mean, what Christian out there, if I asked you, will it go better for you if you obey the Lord or disobey the Lord, would say, it's better if I disobey. I wrote The Bible and Bitcoin for You, Bible-believing Christian, and in it I lay out the biblical basis for what money is, why our current fiat monetary system is ungodly, and how Bitcoin is the best and most viable, biblically compliant replacement for government fiat money. There's even a small group study guide in the back with additional resources to study with your church small group. Get it on Amazon or pay with Bitcoin at thebibleandbitcoin.com for a discount.
I want to know, how does the church respond? Because what you're saying is logical, is biblical, and is probably not received very well. So what is how, I am, like you said, I'm deeply orange-pilled. I've been, a follower of Jesus for 2 decades, a Bitcoiner for 1 decade. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, for lack of a better term, right? What does the brutal church say when they hear that?
Okay, I've got a feeling of why that is. I don't know if you're asking why, or I don't know if you're asking what they say or why they say it.
I want to give the church some credit, but
well, yeah, no, obviously, but no, I think the root problem is that I think if we want to get metaphysical here, I think one of the main ways at which the enemy, evil, Satan, however you want to describe it, I think one of the ways at which he attacks the church is by associating church with religion, right? In the same way, and I'm using this metaphor explaining to the Bitcoiners watching, but in the same way that the primary attack mechanism that the VCs and the crypto token founders have is comparing their altcoin to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Right.
I think that the main, darkness cannot stop light, and so darkness's best hope is to have people confuse and conflate light with some other gray or dark mess or whatever, right? So my point in saying that is that I think one of the main ways that the enemy likes to corrupt and deceive the church is by conflating the words of Jesus with typical religion. And the main difference between, quote unquote, crypto and Bitcoin, or religion versus Jesus, the main difference is that in religion, things are segmented, right? It's like, this thing is holy, this thing is not holy. This thing is spiritual. This thing is not spiritual. This day is spiritual. These other days are not spiritual. That's what most
put in a box,
right? But with what Jesus said was that everything is spiritual, right? Everything has weight. Everything is spiritual weight, including money. And so I think one of the main problems that arose in the church, especially in, let's say, the mid or later 20th century, probably for a variety of reasons, but in my personal view, I think that was one of the big critical flaws of the church, right? Is that, you can still, separate work and faith, separate family and faith. Don't talk about faith. Don't talk about money. Don't talk about, basically separate, segmentate, separate the family, destroy the family unit, all that stuff, including, money is of this earth. Money is temporal. Money is of this age. And so, yeah, it's important, but it's separate, right? And so I think in reaction to what Alan was describing so well, and I think to your question, that I think that the main reason, even though it's logical, even though it's biblical, even though it makes completely perfect sense, I think that Christians perhaps don't consider, the money we are using in of itself is inherently a spiritual, metaphysical declaration of the world, right? People look at us, Christian, people within the Christian world look at us as Christians talking about Bitcoin and money, and and people look at us and say, those Christians, they're conflating money with spirituality. Where my counter argument would be that the money that you're using also has a spiritual element. Yes. It's just that the main lie, again, of fiat or of the enemy in general is that the lie is that these things are separate.
Right.
Does that make sense? Am I saying that well?
Yeah, 100%.
That's my view. Is that the lie itself is that they're separate, right? Both on the fiat level, but then also on the morality level. And so then we forget that it's spiritual at all, and so it's a way to dismiss, right? That's my personal view. I don't know.
There's
you're an active pastor, so you probably know.
I know all things. Everyone thinks because you're a pastor, you know everything. I don't.
Yeah.
I know, but anyways, I know these are good cheeseburgers. I don't know that much.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what the seed oils?
No, it's not that at all. It's just I don't eat on. I don't know. Eating on a mic is weird.
Yeah, that's true.
I got a comment on Twitter a couple days ago. A guy was saying, "Money is of the money's of the world. It's not of God, and we're not going to have money. Or money was a post-fall invention,
right?
So saying before the fall there was no money, and so therefore it's just a present age necessary thing." We shouldn't concern ourselves too much about it.
That's also true of like fire.
Number one, it's not even true of money, okay? No. Because there is a passage in Genesis before the fall where God says that there is gold in the land, and that gold is good. And if you read Genesis 1 and 2, mostly 1, but a little bit into 2 as well, you read that narrative, God says certain things are good multiple times.
Yeah.
Right. He creates a thing. It's good. Creates good. So whenever you see the word good in Genesis 1 and 2, has a creational context here. God is declaring it. So why would God put in the creation narrative a random passage about, by the way, there's gold there and the gold is good? If that's not trying to telegraph that money in trade and human, because money is really the tool we use to scale humanity. And that's what it is. So God said, go be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. You can't do that without money because money scales the mandate. And so God tells us, he telegraphs, it's good because it scales the mandate. And there's a good way to do it. There's a fair way to do it. There's a just way to do it. And so, no, money is not this post-fall, like, we got to do stupid money now. No, it was a pre-fall blessing to scale humanity's purpose.
But I want to know, like, and I don't know how many churches you've been in, or like you're talking about this in how many different settings, but like, what do they, when somebody hears that, what do they say?
Okay, I'll say from my experience, most the times I share this in person, with like a pastor, they don't care. It's strange. It's just a total apathy. It's like, oh, okay, good for you,
dude. So well we've done to ourselves, or like the enemy has done it. Money is taboo in the church, and when you talk about money,
only the leaders though.
Yeah,
because when I talk to just laymen, they're like, "Bro, how have I not seen that?" Or, "Oh my gosh, this is making total sense. How come they're not teaching this in church?" I don't know, because your pastor, I told him, he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care.
I think he's scared. I think if I were a pastor running a church in 2024, the narrative is churches are sucks, like leeches. Mm-hmm. Churches only want you in the building so that they can extract from you. The pastor has to get paid, and he just wants his donation so he can be like, he's scamming you, right? He's a leech, and as a result, rather than lean into that and been like, no, here's why. Like, let me prove you wrong biblically. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I won't talk about money ever again. I'm done. I'm never going to say it again.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
Especially with Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah.
Bitcoin has so much baggage behind it.
Well, and we've seen this happen in politics, and churches, unfortunately, have become so political. Like, we watched Pierre go on his Bitcoin run.
Yeah.
We watched the opposition attack him. Pierre Poilievre is the opposition prime minister.
He's one of the main conservative leaders in Canada.
Yeah, right. And so 2 years ago, during the bull run, he was like, Bitcoin, escape inflation, blah, blah, blah. And then that was on the bull run. Bitcoin drops.
Bought a shawarma with lightning.
But then it drops, and you can see it overnight. It transitions. Blockchain, crypto, and then silence.
Make it big.
And it's like, oh, you actually don't care at all. You're like, oh, you're just going on what's hot. You're just a classic politician.
Even if you do care, even if you do care, it's not profitable to show that you care.
You can't. Right. You can't care.
So you don't care enough.
You don't care enough, exactly. And that's why, like for me, I despise price talk. At the organization that I hate it because but here's why. It's like my granddaughter doesn't care about the price of in 2024. Yeah. My granddaughter cares that you've got corn and self custody. That's that's what actually matters. And it's the math. Just dictates, the math is the math. It dictates that the price, or that the value would be preserved. But what matters is that you have control and that you are off zero.
Yeah.
Effectively. And I mean, even better, talking about future generations. Can we, the way that our previous generations have allowed this level of negativity to jump into our churches and into our fiat society and into our music and into our entertainment, can we eradicate that for the future generations? Can we get churches educating about money? Can we get the pop culture to be respectful and based? How do we turn this around?
That's the million sat question.
Million sat.
I mean, it's Jesus. I mean, obviously, it's the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the only way,
right?
But I think there's also we talk about debasing of money, debasing the man, debasing the morals. I also think this is going to be controversial, but who cares at this point? I don't care anymore. I used to kind of care, believe it or not, but I don't anymore. So I'm just going to say it. It has also debased our theology. It's debased our doctrine as well.
I don't think it's it is controversial, but I don't think it should be.
Well, most controversial things shouldn't be.
Well,
but they are.
Like people say America's a Christian nation. I don't think that.
No,
I would disagree.
But and it's actually, some people say to me, it's like, oh, Luke, you're just a Christian because America's a Christian nation. I'm like,
you've been to America, bro?
Well, I mean, really, a lot of people will say they're Christians, but if you actually look at the theology of, to your point, it's the theology's weaker, right? And some people would say, some people
the gospel has been debased, and I've heard preachers in the Reformed camp, in the not Reformed camp, in every camp say that the gospel is debased. We're not preaching the full gospel. They all say it, but then when you do, anyways. Here's the thing. When Jesus said, to your question, how do we fix this? When Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature and baptize, and the Great Commission, he said to teach the nations to obey everything I have commanded.
Right. Not just what's convenient in the modern day.
Everything I have commanded. And so here's what has happened with the debased theology. It's done this. It's divorced Christ, his word, from the Old Testament. So when Jesus says, teach them to obey everything I've commanded you, we think that's just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Right? But that is...
We've got this book with I don't know how many books are in the Bible.
66.
Okay. We've got this giant book with 66, but just listen to 4.
Yeah, just the 4. Teach them everything. Okay, so, but literally in John, the God, you can't get past the first verse,
right,
without it saying, Jesus is the Word of God.
Right.
Okay. So
the first verse of those 4 books is referring to the entire context.
He says Jesus is the Word, and the Word was made, or in the Word was God. So he's saying Jesus is God, and then he's the Word. Okay. Then he says, teach them to obey everything I command you. So if Jesus is the Word of God, who is he? He's God. He's the God of the Old Testament. So every commandment of God, thou shalt not steal, have fair and just measures, and so forth. These are the commandments of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, pre-incarnate, but it's still the same person. And so that's how we fix this, by taking the Bible as a whole and teaching it to the nations holistically, teaching them about the money, teaching them about the morals, teaching them about the family, everything the Bible addresses. It's teaching the nations that. And money, obviously, it falls under the category of what Scripture talks about. And Jesus, as a matter of fact, I think I said in my book, 25 to 30% of Jesus's parables deal with money.
Isn't money the number one subject talked about?
He talks about money more than hell and heaven, I think, combined, if I'm not mistaken. Although, you could say a lot of the parables that he uses money for is actually illustrating heaven and hell principles. So, anyways, but
even if he is, that's why it gets messy. You have a range there. But even if it is, money is still used as a tool, as a means to the end of the message. That's how fundamental.
For energy, it's like energy is the message. The message is how do you use your energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, back to your earlier question of why more pastors or leaders don't this, like what actually happens. My personal experience is that, and I think this is one of the insidious things with fiat, is that it takes time. So I think we've alluded to this, but
high time preference church.
Well, yeah, no, really. If I could touch on that and combine what you're saying with the weakened theology and then your question, is that I think that as fiat accelerates, and this is true for all leaders, not just Christian leaders, but it turns the problems you're thinking about in a shorter and shorter time preference, right? So you go from thinking about 10 generations from now to 2 generations from now to 20 years to 2 years to 2 months to 2 weeks, right? It accelerates that up, and then it becomes much more important of how big is your congregation and what were donations.
Well, then you're stuck in a spiral.
Not how many baptisms were there, not how many people came to Christ, not is there a porn virus or a drug virus that's seeping in, right? Yeah. You go from thinking about the long-term things to the short-term things. I think people feel this on an individual level.
Well, the devil loves that. Devil's got low time preference, man. Like, he crushes it.
Right.
And we don't give him enough credit. Like, it's shocking to see throughout the Bible how Satan plays the lowest of time preference to his advantage. Yeah. And we, as human beings, eat it up,
right?
And then raise our time preference to what you're saying. And once you're stuck in that death spiral, you literally just have to self-destruct to escape it, and that's a difficult thing that people aren't willing to do. I guess.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of say that to give that benefit of the doubt to the pastors and leaders, whether they're Christian, pastors, or even in a secular organization.
It's hard.
They don't understand. That's why the orange pill, white pill joke makes sense, because it's like, Matrix. Missing bullets, kind of freaky stuff. Like, these Bitcoiners are like, what the heck? What do treasury yields have to do with preaching the gospel? Right? They don't get it. They don't get it, and it's because it's like the space time they're viewing their world in is like being distorted as they approach the black hole. You know what I mean? It's like they don't even realize that the meaning of which they're, or the lens at which they're viewing the rest of the world is being distorted more and more to force them to think in short time horizon, which is training their brain to not think in that, which then compounds to everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Well, it used to be that a community would build a church, like a building to meet in, and it would take a couple generations,
Right.
And so a father would bring his son to the church after work, and they would build a staircase, or they would do something, and then that father would grow, and then that boy would grow, and then the father would die, and then he would have a son, and then that son would end up actually finishing the project.
Right.
So you had this multi-generational Christian discipleship, I don't want to call it a model, but you had a multi-generational
example at least.
Yeah, and so it was kind of normal. Now that is the abnormal thing. And when people hear about like how like we do it at our church, it's huge turnoff, because it's like, oh well, like you have a kids program. No, we don't have a kids program. Why? Because you're the kids program.
Right.
Like
mom and dad is Vacation Bible School.
Mom and dad is the kids program, and we don't have a kids program on purpose,
right?
Because we want parents with their kids in church. And then people say, "Oh well, the kids don't understand." Who cares?
Yeah,
it's not about them.
Dude, kids understand, man.
They do understand,
yeah.
But I mean, that's not what it's about. Like,
right.
I'm not preaching so that the kids will have this intellectual,
awakening.
Yeah, I'm preaching for the adults to teach the kids Monday through Saturday.
Right.
Sunday is just a time for the family to get together and for the kids to see their parents worship and grow up in that environment. The kids will grow up into the faith. You can't expect a kid to just be a theologian, overnight. But what I want to see is men taking initiative in their family, discipling their children. That's the main course. And we were talking about this the other week, and I said, I'm not against youth group, kids getting together with other kids or for a church thing or whatever. Where I have a problem is where that's the only spiritual thing they do.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't take a teenager in this world and ship them off to a youth group for an hour a week where they barely do anything anyways, and then get upset when they don't believe. That should just
be the act of going is like the parents like, oh great, at least he's in youth group. It's
right?
Like,
yeah.
What is actually happening?
Well, no, like that's not going to cut it. Because in youth, like, I would rather kids get discipleship Monday through Saturday from their father and their mother, and go to a youth group on Friday night where there's no teaching at all.
Totally.
Right?
100%.
Where there's no teaching, it's just kids getting together,
having
fun, doing wacky stuff, and that's it. I'd rather have no spiritual teaching there, and I'd rather have them discipled at home. If you do that, they're going to stay in the faith, by and large. But if you do it the opposite, you have some rinky-dink teaching on one night of the week, and then there's nothing at home, well, and this is where the time preference comes in. Are you willing to put in the long time to disciple your children? Are you for me, I have young kids, and I can remember when my kids were born, it was like, okay, it's time to do family worship. What is family worship with twin infants? It's me trying to read the Bible while they cry. That was literally family worship for a year. But just do it.
Yeah.
Just open the book, read it. They're not going to understand the thing you're saying. They're probably going to cry and poop and pee through it. But just do it. Get in the habit. Next thing you know, it's ingrained in your family, and you're on your way. But you have to just do it.
See, I think this discussion alone, the inverse of that, I think even that in of itself, for both Christians and even those that aren't Christians but are pro-nuclear family, like, I just think this reason alone is enough to want to replace fiat with Bitcoin, because one happened in 1971.
Like, it happened in 1971.
Right. Like, everyone can look at the charts. What happens as soon as we go from gold, which is good, hard money, which is good, a balanced, weight and measures, which is good, to this. Like, as soon as that happens, this whole thing you're describing is increasingly economically disincentivized.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
I mean, increasingly more working hours, like I was, ranting about a few minutes ago. People have less time to do these things. As these things happen less, then the next generation that grows up without those things then becomes, even more lost. Then it doesn't happen that generation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the whole fourth turning stuff. I mean, it's like, even forgetting the fact that 80% of people in the world are poor and don't have monetary rights, right? They don't have access to these dollars that rich Westerners like us three, but especially me, because I'm from America, get to have, right? So it's even that aside, even aside the fact that all starvation today is a result of political instability, much of which is the result of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even those practical, tangible things you can touch aside, right? Starvation and war and all those things, like, just this alone. I mean, I think that is as big of a deal, if not way more of a bigger deal than defunding war
Way
and reducing
bigger.
famine, is having a stable rock for the intergenerational.
You don't get those things if there is a stable rock.
Right.
They just don't have, like, they're not.
They do not have.
They just can't. Like, it just doesn't happen. The math and the physics of having a stable rock does not allow you to have war or starvation or, like, terrible things.
There's the high time preference is so ingrained in our society right now. I mean, I'm kind of insulated because I'm a Christian and I'm
You're in a
around
bubble. You're in a
Bitcoiners.
bubble.
So I'm kind of insulated.
Yeah.
But if you go outside of our bubble, high time preference behavior is getting crazy wacky. I just say it that way. So the politicians are in my community, the federal ones. They were saying something about, he sent a letter in the mail and it said something about $10 a day childcare or something. It's like, we're working for women, he says, so they could have $10 a day childcare and not have to choose between a career and their family or something stupid like that. And I'm like, the whole premise, I disagree with.
Yeah.
Everything in life is a choice.
Well, look,
Yeah.
if I could talk to him, I would say, listen, I don't want to put my kids in childcare. I would rather have my wife home with them, taking care of them. And I would wager to say most women want that too. Most women would rather be with their children than sending them somewhere else, I think. Or maybe I'm in a bubble with good women, I don't know. But the time preference has gotten such that people think it is a good thing that they could ship their kids off to a daycare all day from Monday to Friday. They think it's good.
Well, it's funny, and that stems from we've shipped off the spiritual
Right,
of our kids to youth group,
Yeah.
and to the church. And it's like, what's next?
It's outsourcing responsibility, which this incentivizes, right? Political currency.
It doesn't. I wouldn't say incentivize. It forces.
It force for many
Well,
people.
yeah.
Forces,
Yeah, like it.
Both.
Yeah, both. Maybe one leads to the other. But what I mean by that is like, I suppose I would agree with, like, incentivizing is a softer word, right?
Yeah.
The fiat, it's only that way because of the fiat debasement,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a tragedy.
Yeah. Well,
Daycare wasn't even a thing 100 years ago, I don't think.
right.
No, you know what? I actually,
You-
I think
you-
it was.
Was it?
Well, no.
The difference is you had the nanny come to the home, not you ship the kid.
Not even that. It
No?
was the community. Like,
Right.
it takes a village.
Grandma and grandpa. And
Grandpa,
stuff.
grandpa, your neighbor,
Yeah.
your
That's
10
true.
friends who are all,
Yeah.
procreating together on the same. My wife and I were discussing this. We just had our 10-year anniversary the other day. We're like, go for dinner. It was
Congratulations.
really awesome. Yes. And
By the way, sorry to interrupt, but both Adam and Alan have 4 kids each.
yeah,
Right,
you have 4
you
kids.
got 4
I have
kids?
3.
You have 3.
Oh, sorry, I thought you had 4 kids. I got 0, but yeah.
Hey,
And
you know
anyway,
what?
it's for
It
context.
happens fast. It happens fast.
Yeah, just so people know that you're not 2 single guys.
Right, yeah, we're not just talking out of here.
I know what I'm talking about. Right? I'm just
like it used to be like you would all hang out, the kids would play and
True.
learn and learn together, learn from the mothers, and the mothers would also get an incredible amount of community. I'm struggling, here's what's happening. They're getting that community group. Now they go to they separate from their children. The children are forced to be with, and, like, let's be honest, you're not hanging out with women whose values you disagree with, right? You're not like that's not your community,
Right.
But now we're forcing our kids into this giant mix, which I believe in. Like I'm thinking of the word decentralization, with that diversity. Like diverse thought builds strength, and I fully believe with that. But like, if you're fundamental, like I do not want to send my kids to school with a Nazi, to be extreme on the other side. Right? Like,
Right.
I don't believe that killing Jews is good, and so if you do, I don't want my kid hanging out with your kid because your kid's gonna have some messed up views, like just straight up.
Yeah.
And so, but we're forcing, and I'm being hyperbolic, but we're forcing these kids with different, completely polar opposite viewpoints in the community. We're stripping the mothers and the families from that community, send them into an office where it's taboo to even discuss. You don't even get to know what your friends are thinking about at work, who you spend the majority of your time with. And it's problematic. And it's separating the family. And then the kids are growing up different from how the parents want or envisioned. Mm-hmm. And then they go to youth group for an hour a week and get a fluffy sermon, and that's it.
Yep.
And it's not good for the future. Like my granddaughter.
And it does indeed. You're prophesying this granddaughter into existence. I think.
Dude, I talk about our granddaughter. He works. No, but listen, like, and it's something. It's because like that's just low time preference. Like, like if we're not thinking
but it's
about our granddaughters,
it's not grandson. I think you're prophesying this.
Well, potentially, but what I guess something is like
grandsons.
My grandson.
There you go.
Like he will exist too, but he though. And I'm gonna get some flack for saying this. He will have more authority to do, to earn, and to like. I have more authority than my wife does in order to be able to I'm the leader of the home.
Sure.
And I need my granddaughter to have the.
I see what you're saying.
Like she needs to know these things so she can find a man who is the leader of a home. Because
makes sense.
My son will just grow up that way, and he will be able to take charge.
You hope for the sons, it's a given.
Right.
Can I add something with the schools? I think that's a good point too, but I really want to emphasize on the schools. All three of us went to public school, right? Yeah, okay.
I finished school at a Christian school, grade 11 and 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But
I actually am a high school dropout and got a GED.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You're a high school dropout?
Dude, I got a
it's
GED.
Like praise and Bitcoin. It's like, awesome! Bitcoiners are different, man.
GED, you know what I call that? The good enough degree. But I'm a high school dropout, and I got a terrible grades at school.
Wow, really?
Horrible.
I want to hear, and I have to go soon. I'm looking at the time. I have to.
Oh, really? Okay. No, I was going to say about school is that, I think this gets back to the point I was making before about how everything is spiritual. Everything has a spiritual, metaphysical connotation, right? If you, like, inherently, if you believe in that, then everything inherently, like, it's 0 or 1. Either nothing is metaphysical and spiritual, or everything is. Right? So my point with school is that this is the problem of, I believe that the church, collectively, and individual Christians individually, forget that the education of kids is not separate from that, right? And we believe it can be. That we believe that the education could be secular, and because what happens, of course, if you transition the kids from being in decentralized communities and families and nuclear units to the centralized daycare, indoctrination, education, whatever you want to call them, places. Well, no, you have people disagree. You have the Nazis that want to teach your kids about Nazism. You have the Christians like us that want to teach your kids about those kinds of things.
Your family, your nation, and your world needs strong men. The devil wants men weak, emasculated, and addicted to porn. This is why I designed the Slaying the Beast course to help men take back the dominion porn stole from them. This course will help you discover your identity as God's image, how porn leverages and twists that against you, and how with God's help you can turn the tables on the beast and live free. There's also access to a Discord server where you can have fellowship with others in the fight. You do not have to wait any longer to conquer this beast once and for all. Go to lifegiverchurch.net to get started today.
Of course, if I could just say this, some people are going to not want, many people are not religious or Christians, so they want to teach their kids something different. But even if they want to do that, then centralized school system doesn't work.
Still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this as my final thought.
Bring us back down.
If you're an atheist, you want to live in a Christian country, okay? Because this is the country where you're going to have the most freedom to be an atheist. So everybody wins when Christianity prevails. even the enemies of Christianity do better when Christianity prevails. And so that's why we need to be urgent about preaching the gospel and not ashamed to say that we think that everyone should learn the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, you're forcing your religion. Well, not really.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yes.
Yeah. But if you look at someone and they've got their mouth wrapped around an exhaust and that's running, and you're like, hey, take your mouth off the exhaust.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't need your oxygen.
Right.
Get out of here. I'm fine. This is working out for me. It's like, but
Yeah.
only for a few more minutes. And they will not work out
There's
as well
only
for you
two
anymore.
religions you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with, let me phrase it this way. There's only two kings. There's Christ or there's the state or the devil. And there's a reason why in the book of Revelation, the beast, there's a reason why the devil chooses to use the states as his vehicle for garnering worship from the nations. Okay, in the book of Revelation, it says that the people will worship the beast, and the beast we know is the governments of the world. He says the peoples of the world will worship the beast and the dragon. So when you worship the state, when you're a statist, you're actually a Satanist, according to the Bible. Because the dragon or the devil gets you to worship the beast, which is the government, and by doing so, you worship the dragon.
Right, through it.
So what people don't realize is statism is Satanism. It's not just like, statism is not too bad. No, it's literal freaking Satanism. Now I'm starting to sound like Max Kaiser. I'm going to get unhinged right now. It's literal Satanism. The Bible literally tells you if you worship the state, you worship the dragon, you worship the devil. So choose whom you will serve.
It's an interesting way to put it. I mean, I don't know if I've heard it that direct before. The way I would think of it is that the only two gods are we view ourselves as God, or we view God as God. We want His rules, we want our rules. That's the fall in the garden, right? Adam and Eve chose. We want our rules. We want to take the fruit, reject God's rules, right? And really, that's what political currency does. It says I can create monetary energy out of thin air.
Right. Let there be money. Yeah.
Right. Let there be money. Let there be light. Right. Let there be energy. So anyway, I mean, I don't know if I would say. I don't know. I have to think about that more. But to me,
just read Revelation 13. It's all there.
Okay, well, I'll have to read it. But I mean, my point is that I don't think that the state is the enemy. I think human pride is the enemy, and the state is the most powerful manifestation.
The state is the conglomeration of humanity.
Right,
it's like taking the worst parts of humanity and conglomerating them into one edifice. And so the devil loves that, and he uses that.
Yeah.
And opposed to the kingdom of God, which is, so who's the king here?
Yeah. So I know you got to go.
I got to go.
Adam. As we wrap up here, we have a $20 note. We have a US dollar note. We have a $100 Bolivar note. And we have a 10 trillion Zimbabwean note. I know you don't like talking about
number
price.
Go up. Okay, number go up.
Even though you lived through a 600x, probably by the time people are watching this, it's 800x or something. But let's try to condense everything we've been talking about the last hour or so. Like, how do we communicate to people watching? Like, what is Bitcoin's value for that granddaughter, for your kids, right? Like
time. It's right now. Humans everywhere have to go to work for a certain number of hours to eat meals. Right? Let's break it down. Just super simple. You work 2 hours and get one steak. Okay, it's $1 for steak regime. And that's all you need to consume is just steak. And so however, you cannot always, like, if I want a steak at 11 p.m., I can't just go 2 hours of work and then I'll be eating steak at 1 a.m. That's garbage. I don't want to do that. So I'd like to save my 2 hours of work that I worked at 2 p.m. and then have that at 11 p.m. Let's say I want to consume my hours at some point in the future. And so the value of Bitcoin is that you get to provide value for somebody else, right? So it starts with you. You have to do the work, right? Proof of work, hooray. You have to put in the effort, provide the value, and then, only then, will you be able to store the value that you have provided to somebody else. Will you be able to receive value in return and store it? And then you're in control. We are no longer in a race against the fiat time. We're no longer in a race against, oh man, inflation's 8% this year. I guess I better spend more today and less tomorrow because I'll get less tomorrow, right? We want more. We want abundance as human beings. Of course we do.
Be fruitful, multiply.
Sure. Yeah. And so I get now the optionality to be able to spend my value at any point I want in the future, or give it to my granddaughter.
Yeah.
There you go. Adam out, mic drop.
You get to purchase stakes in the early 21st century for your daughter, and you get to teleport ribeyes.
Dude, listen, in Ireland during periods of extreme inflation, they would the guys would go to the bar after work. I'm talking like the 1300s, I think. They would go to the bar after work and they would buy all of their beer for the night at 5 p.m. because at 11 p.m. the beer was more expensive.
Yeah.
Because inflation was so fast, the money was so broken that it was inflating that fast. It's nuts.
And they drink a lot of beer.
And the Irish drink a lot of beer.
Beer is a savings account. Well, that's a thought that I like sharing with people. That I know it's not literally true, but I like thinking about that. The internet, what it did to communication was made it you could talk to anyone across space, right? At least on the planet, right? For all intents and purposes. But then with Bitcoin, the innovation is you can send information into the future, right? And I think that's why
value.
Yeah, right. You can send value in the future, and that's why I think what I would like to think what we're doing is important. And my hope for people watching this is that they understand what they're doing is important, because the value they're saving for today, they're going to teleport that purchasing power into the future, and the values. You're not just sending money in the future, because money's not divorced from a value statement and metaphysical realities, and so they're sending their beliefs into the future, right? If you own one Bitcoin today, you own 1/21 millionth of a very small percentage of the world of the early 21st century. But
of all value that will ever be created in the future.
Yeah, but
it's like if you think there will be lots of value created in the future, then buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you're bullish on humanity, if you're bullish on go be fruitful, multiply, then buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. It's like here's the thing. If you don't buy Bitcoin, it's because you do not believe humans will be providing value in the future, which means humans will die. So, you're already dead. So, okay, fine.
Right.
And if you do buy Bitcoin, it's because you believe human nature, which you will be around for, like the opposite of what I just said. So you'll be there, and so you better have some Bitcoin. So it's like both directions. You should just buy Bitcoin. It's like,
well, yeah,
right.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. Proverbs says, "A righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." Now, of course, I believe that a righteous man leaves a ribeye for his grandson's grandson,
or granddaughter,
I believe that's primarily speaking about spiritual inheritance. I don't think that's primarily a monetary one, because you can't just throw the poor under the bus and say you're unrighteous because you're poor or something.
Right.
But it still applies monetarily, and I think, for me at least, that's one of my biggest motivations in Bitcoin is I don't want my sons and my daughter to have to deal with this nonsense, this clown world. I would rather them be set up to where they can be fruitful and multiply, and money is not a hindrance. I never want my sons to say things like I said, like I can't afford to have kids, or to be hesitant about getting married or having a family. I would rather them just be set up in such a way where they're just like, yeah, of course I'm gonna have 10 kids and whatever. It's no problem. Because that's one of the number one hindrances to people now is money. So that's why I'm bullish on Bitcoin, because I'm bullish on humanity and I'm bullish on humans having dominion. I'm pro-human, basically.
Watch that hate speech, man.
Yeah, I'm pro-human. I think the planet exists to serve us, not us the planet.
Yeah.
So
great. Well, thanks, guys.
Stick that in your pipe in CO2, smoke it.
Speaking of well, I actually I'm not gonna say it, but I think we should address the shirts we're wearing real quick. Alan and I were not forced to wear these, but Mr. Adam over here, Bitcoin Well. These are the shirts we're wearing.
Very soft
shirts. Very soft shirts, but they have the hardest money on the planet on their exchange.
Soft shirts, hard money,
right? Hard
muscle.
Yeah. So if you need a Bitcoin exchange or a Bitcoin only platform to buy your Bitcoin, take self custody, you can do it.
I think I have a link already.
Bitcoin Well. Yeah, he has a link.
I tried it. Bitcoinwell.com/PastorCoin. It brought me to the website, so I think it works.
Brought you to the website.
Adam explicitly told me not to promote Bitcoin Well. I was like, we're wearing the shirts that we're talking about. So Anyway, thanks guys. Appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing. Glad that you guys care and love about your kids so much, and hopefully you inspire more people to do the same for theirs, even more than they already are. And we have a
Go get married and have kids. There, that's the message today.
That's nice.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
That's fun.
All right.
Yeah.